Some killers want to be remembered. They crave headlines, documentaries, their names whispered like a curse. Israel Keyes didn't. No signature, no pattern, no desire for fame. He moved quietly, blending in, planning years ahead, avoiding routines so that no one could connect the dots. What makes him terrifying isn't chaos, it's control. He didn't seek credit, just the act and the silence. Normal job, normal life, invisible to most. Patterns comfort us, warnings keep us safe, but he stripped that away. Appearances became his shield, absence his power. His history lingers not because we don't know enough, but because it reminds us how easily danger can exist next to us, unnoticed. Before we start, this isn't a story told for shock or spectacle. It isn't about fascination with violence. It's about absence, about how someone can move through the world unnoticed, unremarkable, almost invisible, and how that invisibility can be the most unsettling part of it all. Israel Keyes isn't a name most people immediately recognize. There's no mythology wrapped around him, no aesthetic, no pop culture shorthand, just a man who blended in so well that for a long time there was nothing obvious to fear. What makes him different isn't chaos, it's intention. He avoided routines instead of falling into them. He moved across places and times in ways that made connections hard to see and even harder to prove. He planned far ahead, quietly, patiently, not for attention, not to be admired or remembered, but for control, the kind that doesn't ask for a witness. There's something deeply disturbing about someone who doesn't want credit. No bragging, no need to be seen, just the act itself, and then silence. On the outside, he looked normal. Normal job, normal routines, normal life, the kind of person you forget as soon as you pass them. And that forgettability became a shield. For years, there was no single alarm loud enough, no clean timeline, no obvious starting point. The systems meant to catch people like him weren't built for someone who refused to follow even the usual criminal rules. Key's planning was meticulous. He created kill kits, boxes of tools, weapons, and supplies hidden in remote locations across the United States. Years in advance, he would stock these caches and then travel when the impulse struck, using them to carry out his crimes. The absence of a pattern, the randomness of a location and a victim, made detection nearly impossible. Unlike killers who leave signatures or repeat behaviors, Keyes deliberately avoided leaving evidence that could tie him to a pattern. It was logistics and invisibility combined into something completely frightening. He moved across states with a level of patience few could imagine. Some killers are impulsive, chaotic, even reckless. Keyes was methodical. He studied maps, routines, and locations. He treated killing almost like a chess game, planning moves years ahead, calculating risks, ensuring that every step was discreet. His attention to detail made him elusive. The thought that someone could act with such precision without being noticed is what unsettles people most. The psychology of someone like Keyes is what separates him from the sensationalized killers we see on screen. He didn't crave attention. He didn't perform. There was no vanity, no desire for recognition. This is part of what makes him deeply chilling. A mind that sees murder not as drama, but as a task to be completed with minimal exposure. The horror isn't in the acts themselves, it's in which the almost clinical detachment with which they were executed. Patterns are comforting. They give us warnings, signals, ways to anticipate danger. Keys moved, Keys removed those comforts. There was no predictable behavior. He chose victims seemingly at random, moved unpredictably, and ensured there was no trail. Systems meant to detect violent criminals are built around patterns, repeated behaviors, locations, methods. Keyes exploited the gaps. His invisibility, his normal appearance, and his avoidance of attention made him almost impossible to stop. Even on a superficial level, he could be anyone. He worked regular jobs, had a home, a family, people who would describe him as quiet or polite. The horror lies in that ordinary facade. This is what makes Key's story resonate. He could be next to you in a supermarket, driving beside you on the highway, living a life indistinguishable from yours. And for years, he was. Eventually he was caught, but the investigation revealed the chilling scope of his methods. Unlike many killers, whose patterns lead to capture, Key's careful planning had allowed him to evade detection for years. The case forced law enforcement and the public to confront a terrifying truth. Danger can hide in plain sight, and it doesn't always leave traces that are easy to follow. And when stories like this end, there's always a temptation to close the book and feel safe again. But this isn't the kind of story that gives you that comfort. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the ordinary faces, in the spaces we assume are harmless. Not to scare you, but to remind you how easily we overlooked what doesn't demand attention. Sometimes the most dangerous things aren't loud, or dramatic, or obvious. Sometimes they're just there. If you stayed through this, thank you. Like the video if you want more deep dives like this. Subscribe if you're drawn to the quieter, darker corners of storytelling. And let me know which case you want me to cover next. Until then, take care of yourself and don't ignore the silence.